Good morning, Facebook.
Good morning, good morning.
A little bit different today. We're going to try and do some things, a bit of a pilot run. I'll come back to this lady in a sec. I'm going to come over here and talk to this camera. There you go, straight away. You can see something different about Facebook Live. I am sat in the studios of Andy Good TV and TalkPod TV to try something new. Got to love the internet. TalkPod TV, creative conversations. It's just a first run at something that we're going to see has got any legs. I've got three wonderful people to talk to today that is, to be honest with you, is going to make it really, really easy. It's Facebook Live, but with a cherry on the top and high quality. And let's see where it goes. So my first guest is somebody that is about as nervous as I've seen her since we got bloody married. So, we're just talking amongst friends here. So I'm going to forget all these people and we're just going to have a chat.
Okay.
So I've prepared lots of questions which I know that you haven't seen.
Yeah, which you won't share, which is rude.
Right, yeah. So for first question I'm going to ask is, what side of the bed do you sleep? No, I think that one of the reasons why I wanted you to come in and have a chat was that from a business perspective, what you've achieved has been amazing, unbelievable. I know that you've had some business coaching help. And, I think we need to thank Steve Jones for that when he comes in later on, and Karen and Paul. But I think the first thing to do is just tell people a bit more about who you are or who you were and a little bit about your story. So just 2 or 3 minutes backstory.
No problem. So Janet Dickson, yes. I am your lovely wife. I head up the property side of Yes Can Do, the Yes Can Do business. So Yes Can Do as a brand was created by Steve Roberts, my business partner, too many decades ago for Steve. He is known as Mr. Yes Can Do. Started buy-to-let and residential mortgages, and about 5 years ago, Steve's customers kept saying, great, fantastic customer service, now can you let my property? Now can you let my property? And Steve kept saying, well, no, that's not something we do. And then sat there, as Steve does, and went, well, why don't we do that? And I do believe he contacted you and said, do you know anybody that had a state agency background but a business owner mindset? And I'd met Steve probably about 11, 12 years ago when I was running my own business back then. And I do believe you went, you need to talk to Janet. And about 15 minutes later, I had a Facebook message saying we need to talk, which is never good. But actually, it turned out to be one of the best things I ever did. So Steve is obviously still Mr. Yes Can Do, but I'm director of Yes Can Do Property. We've been going for about 4 years.
So just because people won't know, some of your skill sets and some of the other things that you've done. So because there'll be some jobs in there that people won't have realised, and actually a passion of yours. So if money wasn't, we all need to earn money.
Easy question.
There you go. So and there'll be, I think you'll share some stuff that people won't know.
So I started off life coming out of university with a language degree and didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, and joined PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is a big financial industry and company, and headed up pretty much, layman's terms, their debt recovery across Europe with the languages, which was amazing, absolutely amazing company. But my job title, it changed and it changed and it changed, and it pulled me away from my passion, which anybody who knows me is people. I ended up working on spreadsheets too much, so I left there. And I went into a state agency on the Isle of Wight where I lived. Again, people, every day is different. I love that. Every day is different. You kind of don't really know what's coming. But, sorry, Steve, but if money was no object and I could do anything in the world apart from a state agency, one of the best jobs I ever did was domiciliary care. And
that's why I married you. So,
yes,
I'm
so you've got good
so.
care coming, young man. I foresee the future. I did, and it was keeping elderly people in their homes. And best job in the world. I learned so much from that job.
So, so there's definitely some things in there that, fluent Spanish, fluent French.
Fluent gibberish.
I think your money background, you're smarter than the orange that you wear. I think
Thank
people, you come across as a crazy, all over the place kind of girl.
Yep.
But I think underneath it, there's a very, very smart individual. And I
Thank
think
you.
People I don't know that they underestimate you, but you're certainly not somebody to underestimate.
Thank
so
you.
very, very driven. Right. So estate agency, it's just starting to embrace the modern age.
Yes.
We often talk about it. So, and I wrote something down this morning. It's sort of like, it reminded me of the old vinyl records that then went over to online MP3s.
I don't remember the vinyls, but okay.
Yeah. How often do we get that? So, yeah, but, you know, the old record, when you could go into shops and buy vinyls and they were on the high street, and then it all went onto the internet.
Yep.
So, but the estate agency industry is still very grey suits, kipper ties, and on the high street. And the people that have tried to transition across, your Purple Bricks and the like, you know, there's a few of them.
Yes.
Is that they're not doing a great job with it.
Nope.
But you guys have done an amazing job with it. And
Thank you.
So share a little bit about how you've approached that and what some of the things are that you've done to become an MP3 seller while people are still selling vinyls on the high street.
Ultimately, 100%, it's based on customer service. Genuinely, because a lot of people say, oh, you're an online agent. No, we're not. We just don't have the high street walk-in. That doesn't exist anymore. It does. They're still there. But 99.4% of people go to the likes of Rightmove, Zoopla, Prime Location first, and then contact the agent. So we're on all of those platforms, and we have got an office that people can come into. They come in regularly, but we've got the old estate agency normal platform, so to speak, but actually we're now doing it, embracing, which you can't not do in this day and age, which is the massive platform of social media. Yeah. So we're like I suppose people call us a hybrid estate agent. We're not. I don't even know what to call ourselves because I don't really like estate agents, but I am one. But we do it absolutely customer service based. And then with the twist of the social media. Social media is amazing. I mean, for our industry that we're in, we've got a platform for the photos that we create, the professional photos for Yes Can Do Media, the videography, the property tours that no other agent is doing. Yeah. But it's such a strong platform that wasn't there when I first did it back on the Isle of Wight.
So I just think that there's so many lessons in there for people that watch this back that you know, you don't have to be an estate. I mean, I use vinyl records as an example of something that was on the high street that became, and the record industry were one of the last to catch on. Yeah. And I see it with estate agency. It's just like, come on, you know. And whilst I wouldn't want them all to jump on and, you know, tomorrow and end up,
they got to catch up. We're still trying to keep one or two or three steps ahead.
And you know how abundant I am. You know, there's plenty of everything for everybody. And it doesn't matter if they're all on. No. Actually, it's good for business because it means you have to try harder and to be that little bit better than the rest of them.
So for an example, everyone thinks, people go to Rightmove first to look for properties and stuff. Actually, we sell properties from Facebook before they go live on Rightmove.
Well, I've seen you do it. So, you know, where you've posted up, this is coming to market, and then your messenger's gone off like crazy before you've even hit Rightmove.
It's such a strong platform. But the thing to remember with social media, you are putting yourself and your company out there. Yeah. So you have to know that it's not a vulnerability, because actually this is a great tool for us, especially what we do as an industry. But bear in mind that you are going to get people go, oh, that's too expensive. Oh, the garden's a bit small. And actually, you just have to embrace that and know that actually it's freedom of speech. But the amount of people that our customer base, and again, it strives from the customer service, that like and share our posts. And like I said, our average post share and coverage is about 6,000-7,000 people.
Right, so I'm gonna because I know you're sat there nervous about
I don't want to pick my cup up in case I shake.
And we've got people here that were nervous whether or not we were going to get tumbleweed and what have you, and we're going to dry up. That's just like the 20 minutes is just going to fly by. So, and I've got two far better guests that I need to get on after you.
Cook your own tea.
Right, so estate agency Monday to Friday. Let me finish. Right. Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Yep. Saturday girl comes in the morning to field calls. Mm-hmm. So where do you go the rest of the time?
Well, I just kick back and play Candy Crush.
So what are you doing? So so the message here is, because there'll be people that watch, and you're on like year 3 full on. So over 4 years, but sort of coming into third year full steam. Give some kind of idea, because this isn't just about estate agents, this is business generally. So it's a yardstick for people to understand shit, you know, is this really what you need to be doing?
Yeah, you do.
So Monday to Friday, 9 to 5,
Yeah.
and Saturday girl. So now give me an example.
The actual
that I
truth.
know. Yeah. So
The truth.
Share.
It is. It's not just like you say. It's not just a state agency. It's business life in general right now. 9 to 5. It isn't there. Just a Saturday person isn't there. A day off on Sunday to go and do your shopping, it doesn't exist. And I know we've talked about it before, and I know you've talked about it with other people. Work-life balance, forget about it. Seriously, it doesn't exist. It's not a case of that you're working all the time, but as a business owner, you need to love what you're doing. You need to embrace what you're doing because otherwise you'll resent it.
Because of the hours.
So, I mean, we've done it before. So 9 to 5 doesn't exist. People work. A lot of people looking for properties will work 9 to 5 or 9 till 7. So they're contacting us at 7:30, 8:30, 9:30 at night by either email. But it's not just a case of, so again, historically, 9 to 5, somebody would ring you between 9 and 5. As you well know, we get WhatsApp, text message, emails, Facebook Messenger at all times of the day, night, weekends, etc. And you have to embrace that because it's not a case of you're serving Europe at everybody's beck and call, but speed is so important in business. So, for example, if there's a property, there are other estate agents out there, apart from us, that a property might be on, as an example, with 2 agents. So that person looking will send an inquiry to both agents, for example. Now, they'll get a response from my team or myself at 8:30 when they've sent that email at 8:15 that night. Even on a Friday, Saturday or a Sunday, the other agents, the chain agents necessarily, that don't embrace the having to work massive hours, they'll contact them at 9:30. Well, I've already booked them in to see that property. You have to, especially when you're quite young in a business, it's all in. Wow. But you can't. Sometimes you think, wow, but actually, when you get that response back, wow, thanks very much for such a speedy response. There is no work-life balance, but it's amazing if you embrace it and love what you do. It's seriously cool.
Right. So I've got a question that I want to ask at the end, but let's just swap seats for a moment. So be the business coach,
Ooh.
And rather than just talk about estate agency specifically, share maybe 4 or 5 like bullets that if somebody is in business, especially if they're as far in as you are, so Year 3, Year 4, and they're scratching their head and it's not happening for them.
I've been there.
Yeah. So what's a reality checks and what sort of bits of advice would you give from a coach's seat to sort of say, make sure you're doing this or don't worry about that? So just give some things that you've experienced that you now know that's okay, or this is what I wasn't expecting it, but this is where I'm at now.
One of my there's quite a few, but flexibility.
Okay.
Because it isn't that's so that in my handbook it does X, Y, Z. Well, actually, it goes X, Y, P, Z thing all over the place. So you have to roll with situations. Yes, you can put a framework in place and a process, but things don't necessarily follow that. So flexibility and adaptability, I think, because every day new things are coming in. For example, the social media, things are updating all the time. No, you are unique in your business, but actually there's a lot of people out there doing what you do. Yeah. So don't expect, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Okay. The ones that you lose, learn from why you've lost them and then move on to win more. You're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Right. So, and that, I think it took my pride a bit when somebody didn't go with us as an agent. It did dent my pride and think, hang on a second, why not? But actually, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Love what you do. Honestly, it sounds really, really twee, but I genuinely love what I do, and it comes across.
Right, so I want to just separate, I'm conscious of the time, but I need to separate those 2 things out. So love what you do, but a really, really important message here is to not only love selling houses, but love the process that you have to go through to be able to sell houses. that bit for me is as, if not more important than the widget that you get to deliver at the
100%.
end. So, because if you don't enjoy the process to get to the house sale, then you won't ever get to sell any houses. So.
No, it's like I say, we're learning all the time. And another one is actually be open to learning new things all the time. The minute that you think, oh, I've got this, I know what I'm doing, or that's it, you need to keep learning and keep embracing new things.
Right. So, last question, and then. In fact, I'll have a quick look to see if there's any questions on here that might come up before you disappear. Let's let people sort of inside. You know, this whole thing about you don't teach. You couldn't. I couldn't teach you how to drive, or you couldn't teach me how to drive.
No.
But you know, you're living with a business coach who coaches your business.
Yeah.
So share. That process and what we've done to be able to make that work. So the formalisation of it, if you like. So you know, we don't sit around the dinner table and do coaching.
No. So when you were first ready to coach my business and ultimately me, I wasn't ready.
Right.
Because suggestions and things like what about, have you thought about this, genuinely as a person, my personality type, I took that, I went defensive.
Right.
And I know that I was a nightmare, absolutely, but actually the further I got into the business, I did mature into it and mature into the business owner role, because it's a completely different job than being an estate agent. Yeah. It's two jobs. And I think I've matured into that, to actually say, okay, look, I need your help. And I do remember coming to you and saying, okay, I need your help, I'm ready and I won't be grumpy. But yeah, we do, we formalise it. We actually have meetings, specific times, and over the dinner table it's how was your day, but it doesn't encroach. And I think it has to be very formal to be able to do that. And it's easy for me, but to trust in you as a business coach, to know what you're saying to me, even if I don't want to hear it or I don't necessarily agree with it, that it is for the best for my business. But obviously, my business and my team, huge difference.
Right. And just while I quickly flick through here, tell our viewer.
Hi, one viewer.
Yeah, why you were on first today? So.
Oh, why I was on first? I had a viewing first thing this morning, and I've hot-footed it across here to Hamble to do this, and I was supposed to be on second or third, but actually I bumped myself up the queue because I've got to now hot-foot it. It's 11:15. I've got to hot-foot it across to Portsmouth because I've got a 12 o'clock viewing. The first of 4 and 2 valuations today. Right,
I'm struggling to see if there's anything specific from a question perspective, and I'm also aware of the time.
So just really quickly, I'm on now, yay! I'm not nervous now.
I knew this was going to happen. I'm
in. Something that somebody else was talking about, and I know that you've mentioned it before, is when does our job as an estate agent, or when does the hard work start? You messed that up, you forgot that one.
It's on here.
Okay. And it's quite an interesting question, because most people will say marketing the property, or getting the properties on, or selling them.
House, so.
It's a twee thing, but I don't sell houses. People buy them, ultimately. Our hard work starts once a sale is agreed. I'm going to buy that house. The roller coaster that is the next 10, 12, 16 weeks after that, the liaison with solicitors, the emotions that people go through, first-time buyers, their naivety, people that are downsizing due to personal loss of partners perhaps, that's the real hard work. And a lot of people, again, when you say about the 9 to 5, think we just switch off. You don't. You can't help but get emotionally attached with every single journey. And probably the one thing that stuck on the long days and the hard days is the amount of people that remember a phrase that I use. And at the end of that, the whole process, they'll say to me, gets me going, but you said to me that you'd be there on the roller coaster every step with me, and we are. So I don't sell houses, and people, the phrase is, I don't do property, I do people. Yeah,
and I think, it doesn't matter what you do, you personally do, to be honest with you, that's why you'll always be successful at what you do. So,
we're really, really proud of our brand, and the customer service.
So much
I know, Andy stole it. He stole our brand.
TalkPod TV. So,
the orange.
And apparently B&Q are using it.
They are, and some wiggle thing.
Yeah, so... anyway, was it anywhere near as painful as you thought it was going to be? And I'm going to refer to the pacing up and down for 3 months about going to the dentist.
No, so, it wasn't. It was very enjoyable.
It's like we got 3 people watching.
But
we know who they are. 2 of them are downstairs anyway. So it was always going to be fine.
Yes,
so,
it's not too bad, thank you.
So there's a lesson in there as well.
If you are thinking about doing this, it's not as bad as you think. He's all right to have a cup of tea with.
I think we need to sort of wrap that one up. What's going to happen now is we're going to put what they call a bump stop, I think it is. So we're going to have like a 2-3 minute break where you're going to get the tide coming in. Everyone's going to need a wee. A 1 minute break where people are going to go and make another cup of tea. And then we're going to come back to another guest. In fact, I've got 2 business coaches lined up. I'm about as abundant a person as you'll ever meet. I coach coaches. One of the coaches that we're going to talk to today, I coach. But I'm going to bring a really old friend on who is going to introduce
Really
him.
old, he'll love that.
Well, he's not really old, but we are old friends. So I'm really looking forward to that. And I really want to thank my good, Mrs. Coach for coming on and giving us the best start we could have hoped for.
Love what you do.
There you go.
Because I'm off to 9 to 5 Saturday now.
Right, now, so I'm going to struggle to get her off. So there you go. 20 minutes bang on. We're right on point. You can tell I'm a Virgo. Thank you for coming on.
No,
and,
thank you for the opportunity, Andy. As well.
Yeah, go find some people that you think might be good victims too. So for the show. Okay. So right, we're going to take a break there. We'll be back literally in less than 2 minutes. So in a minute, we'll be back with another guest. Thank you.
Bye.
Fabulous. The wonders of modern technology. We've managed to replace the orange with blue. I've got Paul Raisbeck here. So I'm going to introduce you in a kind of, in a formal way, really. So because and it's fabulous to be able to have you on here today. We're doing something as a pilot. Excuse the pun. Yeah. He's a pilot. Because the start of my journey to doing this was sat having a beer with you. So in 2004, up at Soberton, this guy here, fabulous chap, incredibly smart, another business coach, Paul Raisbeck, ex-Navy. He's coming back into coaching, which is really good to see. But we met back in 2004. We sat and had a beer, and I was in due diligence, really. I was just about to spend tens of thousands of pounds, which you'd already been stupid enough to do as well. And it was really more around, should I spend the money? And I was determined to buy the car that much. It didn't really matter what you said. I was going to buy the car. And there was a bit, I don't know if it was reverse psychology, but I think the truth of it is back then it was tough. So I'm not suggesting it's not tough now, as an industry. So, we sort of dropped out of touch when you dropped out of coaching and went back into the Navy. And I can remember, it gave me a wobbly chin, finding on my doorstep one day, you'd left a second edition of Think and Grow Rich on my doorstep. Do you remember doing it? So. Yeah. Which is on my bookshelf now. So, which was such a lovely thing to do. So I'm going to welcome Paul to having a chat. No different to Janet in that respect. I think probably the best thing to do. I've given you a bit of an intro, but is just tell us, let these, because they're fairly new back into the circuit, I guess. Let these, I've used another flying term. Let these people know a little bit about your backstory. So I think it's probably the best thing to do.
Primarily in the Navy. Left the Navy, went to the defence industry. Didn't really sort of enjoy that. So found myself by an odd sort of, not coincidence, but by an odd route into coaching. Loved the coaching. But after a few years, I felt that I was doing something. There was something sort of I didn't understand internally in myself. So decided to put that back behind me. Went away for a couple of years, rethought it, and I've come back now with more of an understanding both myself and actually also of the benefits and how coaching works more up here rather than purely on the business side. So you and I have talked. We both say we don't like the term business coach because we don't coach businesses. We coach people who have a business. And it's more that alignment now, which I feel more comfortable with, I think.
Again, it's something that we both talked about non-publicly about. There's almost a dislike to the term business coach, and it's trying to put.
Trying to bring Google round to a new way of looking at it.
What can we call it? So, because certainly when you're out networking, there is often a huff or an eyebrow raise. And it's, I mean, I don't know whether it's a subject for us to talk about today, because we could probably go into it at length, but it's, it doesn't get the best rep. So, it just doesn't get good, certainly when you think about some of the results that it can bring, it doesn't have the best reputation, which is a sad thing to think, to say, really. So your Navy career, I think, there's some crossover for me, really. I certainly didn't do the length of time in the police that you've done in the Navy, and certainly didn't get to the level that you did from a rank perspective. Is this, when I left the police force, I did think to myself, what on earth does driving a car fast and being able to disarm somebody with a gun, how is that going to help me in, being in business? But of course, as you start reusing some of those communication tools and leadership tools, so share maybe some of those things that are of great value to you that you can pass on as a coach to people that are in business. I'll be talking to Jane Brooks later. She's a police sergeant, 30 years. Yeah. I'll be having the same conversation with her, but I'd be really interested to know what some of your Navy skill sets are.
It's across the board. I've done a number of different jobs, all sorts of things, from sort of bomb disposal through to commanding a ship, and there's different bits and different elements come into all of it. But leadership, management, systems, processes, organisation, structure. Two really important ones: climate and culture. Climate and culture. If you get the people right, and you get the feeling and understanding within a business and then within a team right, they will do things for you or do things with you that you didn't actually believe possible. And I'm stunned sometimes when you see some large businesses, even though that they don't understand that, and they don't get that understanding of, well, actually, I was talking to someone just the other day, and he said, we've had some team problems, and we haven't overcome them yet. And we've got this mentality of the team work for us. We pay them, they work for us. And that's what's, we've now realised that's what the stem of our problem is. We're, okay, how long does it take you to get to that point? Yeah. But so all those things, and they all come together. And me as well, I love learning elsewhere as well. I mean, I've got two master's degrees, and I've never been to university. And then
MBA.
And flying and all these things. And the great thing is that everything we do in life, it's got a link to something else. So you can take something that you do in flying and the structure around flying, and actually you can apply that into business. And equally, you can apply something from business into that as well. And whatever you're taking it, wherever you're taking it from, and you and I both know that sometimes you'll be doing something with one business, and you think that's a great idea. I can actually move it. It'll be a construction business over there, and you can move it into an HR business over there. And these things can all just build together and carry over. Yeah.
So. I've been flying. We went gliding yesterday. Thank you for that. It was just amazing. So we had a great afternoon out. To be able to be towed up and to 4,000 feet and over an hour later still be in the air is
having gone up and down a number of times.
Yeah. So, but one of the things that struck me yesterday when I was coming home, obviously I was thinking about today, but one of the things that struck me was how. Obviously, as an instructor, you're a pilot, gliding instructor, the level of confidence and trust. I mean, I know you anyway, so obviously I trust you. But when you went into that sort of autopilot mode and terminology, phraseology, and the walkthrough, as we were putting parachutes and things on, ready to go crash a glider, was just. Very profound and really very clear. And I was thinking to myself how if ever you were sat with a business coaching client that is struggling and is trying to get to where they want to go, is that oozes out of you. So I'm because obviously I've never sat in with you on a coaching session. There's another conversation really. When I went to San Diego, I don't know. Have you ever done it? Have you been able to sit in with another coach who's coached?
I've done it briefly, but not
right.
recently.
So I did it a lot in America. It's a lot more open over there. And you can remember back from our franchise days, it was a very closed off. Like you can go and talk to coaches, but they won't let you in. Yeah. So, and so your first real experience of it is when you start to make it up for yourself. Yeah. So I was when we were getting ready to fly yesterday, I was really thinking about how confident and safe somebody would feel, not sat in a glider, but in a coaching environment with you. So, and I think that's that leadership bit that absolutely oozes out. You can't do that amount of time. I mean, what rank were you in the Navy?
Oh, just lieutenant commander, but it's just I say just
a lieutenant commander. So you can't get to that rank without displaying levels of leadership, confidence, trust, all of those kind of things. And I do think that because of the modest pool that I know, some of that stuff isn't shared. It doesn't really come across until they get in front of you. And often it's trying to get people in front of you, to be able to share it. So I want to talk about old school, new ways. One of the things I did say we would talk about today is because I think you're in a very unique position. And one of the first things I said to you is if you're coming back into this industry, you need to be doing this. You need to get in front of cameras, because 2004 it wasn't a thing.
It was very, very different.
Yeah. So, and I think that is going to be a great way for you, without physically sitting in front of somebody, so that they can sense this level of trust and confidence that they would have in you. That you've got this medium now to be able to do it. So let's just talk about old school. I've ended up rambling on, but let's talk about old school, new way a little bit. So share with our viewer some of the things that you've seen already between that sort of time capsule back from when you were in this industry, early 2004, 2006, maybe 2007, and then coming back in and getting out networking, which is fabulous to see. Some of the changes that you've seen.
I think this is the big change.
Right.
When we started out, Facebook didn't exist. There was a new thing called email marketing just coming in, and no one was really sure whether it would work or not. Yeah. And it was, we had to go. It was very manual. You had to be there. You had to be showing up. You had to be in front of somebody, whatever you were doing. I think now, as you see with this, your audience is everywhere, and it's a great ability. And I still haven't got my mind around it personally myself. I see what you're doing. I'm thinking, whoa, okay. But it really has changed massively, and it's a mindset change, both for the coach and for the people being coached as well, to sort of get an understanding, because that then comes into what they're doing in their business and everything else. So it's huge difference.
Go into a bit more detail, because I promise you, our viewer will be doing stuff that you'll share that were being done back in 2004 or previous to that. And there will be people that watch this, and you'll share stuff with them that is no longer valid, but they're still trying to make that work. We meet them all the time. So, there are people that in the time that you've been back, that we network with, for 5 years, they're still using the same pitch. This is like the craziness of it. So I think it's, for me, over the 14 years, I've had to evolve and, in fact, doing what we do, we have to try and be at the front end of this stuff. This is why we're sat here doing Facebook Live with 3 cameras. We're trying to be innovative. So, but I think it would be good for you to share some of the things like we were talking about there. So print. I don't want to steal it away from you. So, but what would you have done back then to have put people into a seminar, for example?
Well, I mean, back in the day, it was, you and I probably both remember, printing off, all the flyers going out, sticking the stamps on the envelopes, the labels, and everything else, sending out thousands of them, and getting, a handful of people in a room. Now, just you can turn that round, but it's got to be immediate. Janet earlier on was saying, speed is key. It's got to be immediate. It's also got to be present all the time as well. I'm now starting to feel I'm learning something off you. I think that I'm now starting to feel that if I'm not doing something, if I'm not, as you say, making a noise on a daily, if I miss a day, I'm starting to think, oh, hold on. A noise hasn't been made, so it's got to be there. It's got to be constant. It's got to be, because people's minds now. This is. I've started to term this. We went through the industrial age and the information age. This is the age of disruption, and there's so much going on. You've got to be doing something, which is not only disrupting what everyone else is doing as a standard, but disrupting that stream of information that's coming into someone else's mind, to cut into it, to make your message felt or heard rather.
And that's how good this guy is, right? So that word disruptive is one of the keys now. So, and to come back and as quickly as you have done, start to, because I know we've talked about it, but I mean I know you won't mind me sharing. Is this the difference in those 14 years?
Yeah.
So from print, flyers, no social media as such, all those things are gone now.
But you still see people who are putting out really, really bad paper adverts.
And this is why I wanted you to share, because there'll be people. What I'm trying to do is get at them to sort of say, stop doing that. Yeah. So you got to embrace all this new stuff. So I'm always really honest. It's the sort of thing I would sort of pass on to you, if you like, in front of our viewer. Is this: if you're trying something new out, especially with a client, I'll absolutely put it on the table and say, well, let's try it. Who knows? I've said to Andy, that well, let's have a go. Let's see if this works. If it works, if we get 4 viewers and then we get 8 viewers and 20 viewers, then let's keep it going. So it is very much throwaway. We've got such a great opportunity nowadays to try stuff. We talked about some stuff yesterday that I'd love to see you have a poke at, really.
And the other interesting thing as well, I think, is that in the past we've all learnt from books. And I think a lot of people are still learning from books. Yeah. And I know you're writing a book, but you're not writing a book in that sense of here is a book on how to do sales for your business. Here's a book on how to do marketing. Actually, again, the disruption, the speed, it's all moving. So you've got to be doing stuff like this,
I think
getting it moving forward.
That's a massive takeaway from our chat is if you're not being disruptive, then you got and disruptive in a positive way, of course. Being disruptive to in a good way. I think that's a big key. The analogy I use is that we live in a world really where when we're trying to go to market, we're in a football stadium with 35,000 people and they're all shouting too. And what is it that you can do? Is it that you're wearing a big dicky bow tie and dressed as a clown, or is it that you're shouting or saying something that is completely different to everybody else, or wait until it goes quiet and then making a noise, or making more noise than they are? So it's just finding the ways to do it. And same as I said to Janet earlier, one of the keys here is finding ways to do it in a way that is different to anybody else, not necessarily from a USP perspective, but that makes you remarkable, that makes you stand out. And that's that disruptive word. So that people stop and say, well, what's going on there? So which is exactly what this is in essence, the TalkPod stuff. So
and the other benefit that all this brings as well is that when you're standing in that stadium before, you were shouting out at 35,000 people. Actually now you can stand in that stadium and you're shouting, but actually you're only shouting to 10,000 people because you can bring your message down, because your audience is no longer just Southampton or Portsmouth. Your audience is the world. You can actually niche down, right down to sort of the people you want to be in your tribe.
Advert time. So we've been sort of fairly honest about the fact that you're keen to get back and do some coaching work. This is a good guy. There are lots of bad guys, not bad guys, but guys that just I wouldn't recommend. You are definitely one of the good guys. As you know, completely abundant in all of everything that I do. I spoke about it earlier. So share. What would without using the cliche, what is it you're looking for today? What kind of clients, geographic, whatever. So anything that would help get you back and doing the stuff that I know that you're absolutely really good at. So,
well, I'm as you're aware, I'm splitting my time at the moment between Cheshire and Hampshire. So I'm heading off to my northern office this afternoon. So I'm working in both areas. What am I looking for? It's really just people who actually want to move forward. And when I say want to move forward, you've probably done exactly the same. You've sat in front of somebody and said, are you 100% committed to the coaching? And they've said, yes, absolutely. And some people sort of look at it and they almost see you come through the door and go, oh, that's great, I'll just I'll dump all my problems on this person, then it'll work. It won't. It's got to, the business owner has got to be fully behind taking ownership, accountability, responsibility, all those things of saying, you know what, actually, this is the point where I need to get ahead and do something. Or alternatively, ideally, that 20% who look beforehand and say, you know what, I've got to where I am now. Let's bring people on. Let's move things forward before we start dropping into the.
I know that there is a raft of comments on the feed, and I'll get all of you to put your contact details on there. But are there some places that people can find you and go and cyber stalk you to find out a bit more about
Brent's
what you're
Coaching on Facebook and Brents.com, BURENSE.com.
What does that? Tell me what the word is.
I'm not going to tell you now.
So you have to go and find it.
It'll be too long.
All right, okay.
It'll take too long.
So Brent's Coaching.
Yeah.
And Facebook.
On Facebook, and then Brents.com is the website.
Okay.
And all the details are on there.
Right, fabulous. Check this guy out. Seriously, an amazing business coach and the start of my journey. So back in 2004. So
clearly didn't listen to me, did you?
Yeah, I'm still driving that old banger. So still getting away with it. I'm waiting to get caught. Yeah. So thank you for coming on. It's just like if this is going to be a thing, and we look back on it as the pilot. I'm just so glad that I was able to, because it reminds me when I went back to speak at Reading, about 3-4 years ago, and that's where I got made redundant from in 2003, and it was a real I loved going back there to give them the finger to sort of say, look what I've achieved after you laid me off, kind of thing. So it was for all sorts of reasons. It was really good that we were able, because I know you're going straight off to Cheshire, aren't you? So thank you for coming in and doing it. So we're going to take another break, another 60 seconds, I reckon, and we're going to replace Paul with somebody that's extremely attractive, other than
more attractive. Yeah,
but another business coach, and we'll introduce her once she's taken a seat. But thanks for coming on, and we'll no doubt catch up soon.
Indeed.
So
thanks for the invite.
Cheers. Bye. Here we go, last one, saving the best till last. I have with me two people. What's he going to say? I've got two people with me. I have another business coach, but I also have a client with me. So yes, so it's going to be really interesting. So Karen Murray, you know, right from when we sat down a year ago, I said to you, you were one of the good ones, no different to what I said to Paul today. We could name them. Should we do that? We'll get a lot more viewers. Let's start naming all the really bad ones. Shall we?
I had a bad one. Keeps emailing me on LinkedIn.
What, still?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I must unconnect.
Yeah.
They only email me to sell me their stuff.
So show 2, what we'll do is on show 2, I'm going to bring a list of all the really bad coaches, and we'll go through them, and I'll just sort of say why I think they're bad. Do you think is that what they call clickbait?
I think that's clickbait. I'm not sure it's very honourable. I don't think you and I would enjoy that.
Seriously, one of the good coaches, I genuinely felt that you were kind of floundering, trying to find your place in the marketplace. That was just my sort of take on it. And fortunately, which is how this process works best, is when people come to you. And so I got this opportunity to be able to work with you. I think before we get into any detail, because I did want to keep you till the end, because I think we'll probably run over 20 minutes. Is the truth of it. So if our viewer does stay more than 20 minutes, then we'll be fab. So the only reason I say that is because I know that our sort of 90-minute to our coaching sessions, I think the shortest has been 2.5 hours. So because when you get two coaches together, it's just like it's a nightmare. So. Introduce yourself and share with me and with them something, maybe, because I'm guessing there's stuff about you that I don't know about what you've done and in the past, and what got you to where Karen Murray coaching, I guess.
Okay, so you've introduced me. I'm Karen Murray and I'm a business coach now. But I started work when I was 16, so I didn't do the usual college university route, and I worked in business administration then and sort of progressed quite quickly. But didn't really have any belief in myself or what I might be able to do, which was partly why I didn't do college and university. But by the time I got into my mid-20s, I had a really good boss who actually said, what are you doing? You're my EA now, executive assistant now. What are you going to do for the rest of your working life, because you're going to get bored doing this, but you will hit a ceiling. And he encouraged me to apply to universities as a mature student, which meant I didn't need to go and do A-levels. So I did that. And I wanted to do a business studies degree because my brother had done one and was now working in De Beers, the diamond, in marketing. And I thought, that would be good. But my first 2 modules were finance and law. And I really didn't enjoy it. But I had to take a secondary subject because there weren't enough credits in the business degree. So I happened to just look through the prospectus to find something that looked interesting. And in the geology section, they went on field trips, and the first one was up to Scotland. And I thought, I fancy that. So I did business studies with geography.
Wow.
But I loved it. And then I transferred over to an earth sciences degree. So lots of people don't know that about me, that I have a strong geology background, and I'm fascinated by that. But I met my husband towards the end of my degree, and he's a little bit older than me, a bit like you and Janet. I hope things work out better for you than they did for us. Well, after this morning, I think you might be sleeping in the garage.
Yeah.
But
again,
we wanted to get on and start a family, so we had Matt. So I then had 5 years at home. Instead of doing all the kind of global travel that I had planned to do in my head with my new super duper geology degree, I was at home with Matt, which was great. But then I wanted to do something that would enable me to, do that. So I became a teacher. So it was quite a circuitous route. I've had a really circuitous route to becoming a business coach. Did teaching for 5 years, and what that helped me with was how you formulate teaching. Because adults learn the same way children do.
Yeah.
We're just children with a socially acceptable veneer, really. And so we learn the same. And it taught me a lot about how to help people to learn and the vulnerabilities that we experience when we're learning, which is really important in coaching because you are in that learner position very often. But then somebody was struggling in their business and asked me to help them. And I tapped back into my sort of executive assistant roots and business process and systems. And I started to work for them as their Director of Business Administration and Strategy, grew that business really successfully with the rest of the board.
Wow. Okay.
And then went from there to starting my own business to do that for other people. So I'd done that with that person, and I just thought, I really love doing this, it's exciting. I think I could do that for other people. So that's the long version.
Yeah, no, I learned some stuff there. So I knew the teaching bit. One of the big standouts for me, there were 2 really. One was how good a communicator you are, so how articulate you are, even just then, just sharing who you are, incredibly articulate. But the big standout for me, because you read books on leadership, and there are some books on leadership that sort of say anybody can become a great leader. And honestly, I think that's bullshit. I think that leaders are born, that you don't really make leaders. So it's sometimes people end up, and we'll be talking to Jane Brooks at some point today about accidental managers, which is a fabulous term. People end up in positions of leadership, but they don't. It's not because of their natural skill. It's just that they've been positioned there. So, but you have, and so in this industry, I think there's a DNA. I think that there's this a way that those that are successful at it and have the longevity, it's because it's what they were meant to do. And one of the big things that stood out when I first met you, and met you a few times, was this whole awareness thing. And if you have fabulous self-awareness of how you're feeling and how to manage and deal with that, then of course that translates out to people that you are looking at or working with, and that's one of the key things that we need to be able to help somebody that's struggling, because sometimes they're not self-aware. And so being able to ask, rather than just say you're really shit today, you've got to ask those excuse me for swearing, but you've got to ask those questions, haven't you? So that they can say I'm really shit today, aren't I? So and I sort of had a little poke at this with you this week. So sometimes I like to be a naughty coach and play, and so you will ask questions to just play games. I don't know if he's still watching, but I did it with Brad Burton when I was with him last week. He still doesn't know what it was that I did to him. Did some stuff to him last week. but sometimes we do it, very openly. So, so where does that come from? Do you think? Do you think it's the teaching? Do you think it's the is it DNA? Is it school? I don't know. So this self-awareness thing and the articulate element.
I think actually my mum, I think, is probably the source of being quite articulate and confident. Both my parents, when I was growing up, encouraged us to, talk around the dinner table, express viewpoints on things, look at the wider world and talk about it. And I love communicating, so I think part of it is a DNA thing. I really enjoy listening to good speakers who are doing it well. There's a real thrill of listening to somebody who's just good at the oratory, even if what they're saying isn't on the money. So I think that's just part of who I am. I think teaching helped to hone that and gave me the confidence to speak more off the cuff, because teaching is basically a 6-hour unscripted play.
Okay. This is the articulate thing that I really love about you, see? That's fabulous. Yeah.
You are, you don't script your day. You don't know what the children are going to ask. You don't know how they're going to respond to your lesson. And that's the same in coaching, in everything. You can't fully prepare for it. You can only prepare yourself to be the best that you can be when you're sat in front of that person.
Yeah.
And I suppose the self-awareness bit came from struggling with my own identity and struggling with my own issues around growing up. My dad is adorable. When I talk about him, I get quite emotional because I just love him to bits.
Nearly a Janet going. Don't you go as well?
I won't go. I love my dad to bits. Growing up, though, he was a perfectionist, and it was a misguided sense, I think, of his belief in me. So Dad has always, and both my parents actually, have always had such a strong belief in me that they always believed I could do better and could do more, which is a wonderful thing for a child. But when you experience that, how could you have got the A when you got the B? Or, how could you have made that better? What could you have done differently? All the time, you start to wonder if you're enough. Right. And I think I spent a 20-year journey really trying to work out if I was enough, that culminated in some fairly serious issues with mental health, anxiety and depression. So kind of been there and done that. And in fact, I started my business at probably the lowest point in my life, where I was really, really struggling with those things. So, I was newly single. I'd just taken on a large mortgage. It's been a really difficult time. But I think through that, and having counselling and reading a lot of books on personal development, I think I had to look inwardly. Yeah. And that then helps me, I think, when you've been really broken, you have an enormous amount of empathy and compassion for people who are sat with you, who are going through that. So I think that's where those things come from.
So this is why we end up talking for so long when we sit down coaching.
Because I don't be succinct.
Well, no, it's just that it's always deep and meaningful. Yeah. So I'm going to give a shout out for another coach who I have a great deal of respect for, Alex Petty. Do you know Alex?
I do. I think, yeah.
Yeah. So I hope Alex is watching. If he's not watching, I'm sure he will watch what we're putting out. And in fact, on the assumption that we don't get booted out after this, and Andy says don't ever come back because it was rubbish. If we get to run again, I'm going to get Alex on. So when I was working in a franchise many years ago, Alex was in the franchise too, and we were sat around a table with 10, 12 other coaches, and I can remember him asking, he was challenged, he was struggling, and he asked for some help around the table, which is, just what you should do when you've got 12 coaches sat around you. And I put my hands over my eyes because he just got bombarded by the rhetoricals and the classic coachy, what if you did know, and have you tried this? And, it was just horrible. It was horrible to see. And actually all that Alex wanted was the bloody answer. So can somebody just tell me what to do?
Tell me what to do, yeah.
So that has been a big part of... in fact, I've got some clients that actually I work with them for that very reason, that you absolutely want to coach, but sometimes in business, it's just a realisation they just want to know what should I do. To the extent that sometimes you do it for them. I don't know if you do, but there are occasions when I will do an advert, or I will do a spreadsheet, or I've got, I do Janet's dashboards. So where are you with those kind of things? So, from a traditional sense, my coach used to say to me, it's taboo, you shouldn't do it. They should be filling in the forms. They should be sending you the feedbacks. We have a bit of banter about feedback. So where are you with that? So
I would say from that point of view, I am a business coach, but I'm not really a coach.
Right.
I think I fit more comfortably in advisor,
okay,
supporter.
I'm just so writing these down because we talked earlier about wanting to get rid of the whole business coach.
I'm advisor, supporter.
I'm stealing this right now.
Just friend, sounding board.
Yeah.
But I'm not really a coach because I think that most people who come to me, if they knew the answer, they'd already be doing it.
Right.
So sometimes it is about holding people accountable. So sometimes when I think somebody's sat in front of me and they do know the answer, they're just not implementing, I get them to articulate the answer and then find out, well, then why aren't you already doing that?
Yeah.
Or if you are doing it, how could you do it differently? So that you become more in that coaching role if I feel they know the answer. But a lot of the time, you're looking at people who either tacitly know the answer, but they haven't yet made it explicit.
Right.
So sometimes we need to get it down. And they need to talk. So if I make their job also the scribe, you can't write and can't, it's all difficult to do.
Yeah.
They just need some thinking time. They're often coming for headspace, for me to take a little bit of the burden away for a while. So I'm not going to add additional burdens onto them. And if I talk to them about having a spreadsheet or a dashboard and they look horrified, I do that for them. And then when we get together, we fill in the numbers. You bring the numbers, I'll fill in them, and we'll look at what that means and analyse it together. So I suppose it's about working with your client where they are rather than where you think they should be. Or where they think they should be. So sometimes they come frustrated because they think they ought to be. They're comparing themselves to other people and they think they should be somewhere else compared to. But we can only ever compare ourselves to ourselves and the next stage of our own journey.
It's like, Paul talked about the disruptive word. Janet, whilst we didn't use the word, she very much has disrupted that industry. You have been talking a lot today about mindset. In fact, everything you've just said really in that last piece, that last segment, was very much about how people think and how they perceive, and where their barriers aren't in knowledge. It's their belief systems, their attitude. Where are you with that whole mindset piece, and how do you think that's helped you become the success that you've had?
In terms of my own mindset or helping other people with it?
Well, both really. So, if you think about it, I'm no different. As a business owner, I still have the same challenges as other business owners, which is why we end up sat together. It's like it's no different as if I was running a sweet shop. So it works for ourselves. You need to have the right mindset, but also when you're sat with somebody and they're saying that they haven't got enough new business, is that because their marketing sucks, or is it because their attitude sucks?
Yeah.
So I just try to understand from you how you see it.
So I'll often attack the data points first, because I think that gives us a starting point. So looking at the numbers is always really useful, because the numbers tell their own story. So what marketing are you doing?
Okay.
That immediately people can start to say, okay, well, this is what I'm doing. And it's an easy conversation once they write it down for them to say, do you think that's enough?
Okay.
And
So
how
that's
noise.
a great coachy question.
Do you think that's enough? What are the results? Are the results getting you? I say to people, if you're getting the results that you want, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing. There's only something wrong if you're not getting the results that you want. It's the same with leadership. Yes, people aren't born into leadership. Sometimes they do have to. I believe people can grow into it, but great leaders, I think, have to have an inherent DNA. But I think you can get better at leadership. And one of the things that I think helps you to be better at any of these things is, are you being intentional about it?
Yeah.
So I think mindset fits into that for me as well. Are you being intentional about looking at your mindset? So if you're not getting the results that you want, there's going to be either you don't know enough, or you're not doing enough.
This is why you're so good at this. See?
Or you're not thinking
How
in the
clear
right
is
way.
that? How clear is that to share? if people aren't writing that down, so you know.
But you have knowledge action mindset, so
Yeah.
actually, I suppose it's just my way of I suppose I've just stolen that from you. Really, it's I don't know enough. I'm not doing enough, or there's something inherently going on up here or in here. And I often find that people who know enough but aren't doing enough, it's not that their attitude sucks, it's that they don't believe in themselves.
Yeah.
And I think we need real clarity about what to do. We need a really clear plan about how to do it. And then we need to believe in ourselves. And when those three things come together, I think we get real action. So if we've got real clarity about what we're trying to achieve, and we've got a plan for how to achieve it, and we get ourselves sorted out to a place where we really believe that we can get that result, we can achieve that goal, we start taking action. So if one of those three things is missing, then we take a lot of action because we're very courageous and we really think we're it, but we don't have any goals. So we're just like going around like headless chickens. And those are the people that I find who don't have any focus. They are subject to every salesperson that sells them the new model that's going to make them 6 figures in 3 months, because they don't actually know what their own goals are.
I'm going to delete this section of the show if you don't bloody mention something when I next ask you a question.
Your breakthrough.
Right, okay. We talked about it. Right, this is so important because I love it. I think it's
to get
really
a breakthrough,
powerful.
that is true. Those three things I find when I'm coaching is that when I'm getting people to break through, that's what I'm looking for. Which of these three things is missing? Now, alongside of that, with plan, is a bit like when I talk about in SMART, the other acronym I use, being methodical. In that section, in having a plan, you need to monitor your results. You need to be looking at some numbers. You need to have some systems and process that make that plan happen.
Right.
But really, those three things are what I'm looking for. And if people want a breakthrough in life or in business, and usually we need a breakthrough in both as business owners, because what's stopping us is usually us.
Yeah.
So if you want a breakthrough in life or in business, one of those three things is going to be your problem. I pretty much guarantee it, other than I just don't know enough. But that becomes then your job. If your goal is this, and you then find, I don't know enough to take action, then your plan is, right, learn how to do it first. Then start to take the action. That becomes your new job, is to learn how to do it.
And this is why I enjoy working with you, of course. And I genuinely, I said to Paul yesterday when we went gliding, when we and he first started, there was nobody giving us a leg up. There was nobody helping. On the contrary, it was this anti-abundant sort of attitude, and we were actually with machetes trying to break into an industry that people didn't really understand back in early 2000s. And then it got still gets lots of really bad press. So when part of my whole journey now, this whole thing about wanting to leave legacy and wanting to help, and it is very, very genuine. This is absolutely what I want to do. More and more now. So I coach a few coaches, and I've coached actually quite a few coaches over the years. You are definitely on my bloody doorstep. So again, that does for me is very clear about the abundance element. I do coach with a lady up in the Wirral. I've worked with somebody in the States, but the more I sort of pass the baton to you, and you I'd say the same to you, that if you find somebody that has all the right DNA, is to make sure that you give them the leg up too. I'm very openly, I will share with anybody that's watching anything that comes from this lady that you think, well, I've seen that Ian's got that stuff. She has permission to use anything that I've got. So not that to give you a shortcut, but if you think that, why would I want to change that, then it's yours to use. So and I've said the same to Paul. So because you want to be able to help the good ones, to help get them to where they want to go. So we've had long conversations about those sort of things. So so I'm conscious that I knew we'd overrun, which is why we wanted to bring you on last. So sort of 2-3 minutes, what are you going to be doing for the rest of this year? Not holidays, but from a work perspective, and then into next year. What's exciting about Karen Murray coaching?
So your breakthrough year is something that I'm working on at the moment, which is a product really that will enable people to experience the kind of breakthrough that they want in their business. So I want to have a program running next year where quarterly people can come together in something called the Profit Hub and have their breakthrough year. So that quarterly what they're doing is reviewing the previous quarter and planning their next quarter. And then in between, you know, some people might want coaching, but there'll be, you know, a Facebook group where people can support each other. I'll be hopping in. I'm hoping that, you know, you might hop in and be one of the experts in the group. I'm 2-1 at the moment. And then
on speaking,
that will hopefully launch in January. Well, that will launch in January. Let's not use the hopefully word. That will launch in January. And what I'm trying to do there is make coaching available to people, make something available to people who otherwise would find one-to-one coaching prohibitively expensive. Because I think there's a raft of people that really want help, but coming to somebody like us one-to-one, they're just not at that place yet. So your breakthrough year is something that I feel really passionate about for next year. To get ready for that, I'm working on the Smart Business podcast. Far harder than I ever thought it would be, and a really interesting journey for me. So that's kind of an ongoing thing that I'm not going to let go of, that will launch, and it will launch when I'm ready to do it really, really well.
Okay.
And we'll talk about that, and I know you'll keep holding me accountable for doing that.
I love my job.
And then I'm speaking with you in October the 26th. On a subject we're both really passionate about, marketing and sales, because they are the lifeblood of people's business. And most people that aren't making enough money, there's something going on in their marketing and sales, and usually there's something going on with their mindset. So I'm going to be covering some of that stuff on the 26th of October. So I'm going to do lots more speaking next year, lots more seminars, lots more workshops to make more of this stuff available to people, because communication is my passion. And I'm a natural teacher, where potentially I'm not a natural coach. I have to work harder at the coaching, but I do love communicating, and I love workshops where people are able to engage with the learning as they go along and come away with something that means that they take action the next day.
So I think people that saw you at the Big 100, because you, again, moulded yourself into that very challenging concept of a tip every 3 minutes. You absolutely just melted into there perfectly. I think the sales and marketing workshop that we're running in October, 26th of October, 9 till 4:30 at the Langston Hotel. Check web for details. Thank you for the lead in. I think we'll see the true, so that'll be more the Karen Murray that I know as teacher, trainer, coach, and speaker. So I think because it's much more of a workshop, head down type of environment where it's transference of information in a training, coaching, you know, because there'll be some help at the tables and what have you. So I'm really looking forward to that. So where can people find out about all of these things that you're doing? Facebook, website, just share so that people can go find you.
So www.karenmurraycoaching.com is the website, and you can sign up to get email when the podcast is launched there, and you'll only get weekly email to say this is the next podcast episode and here's some extra stuff from me because you're on my list. There won't be anything else. So just my GDPR job done. Tick. You don't have to tick boxes. If you've opted in for the podcast, that's all you'll get. And then Facebook is Karen Murray Business Coach. I try to do a Facebook Live most days. It tends to be 2 or 3 times a week at the moment, but my September is every day.
Want to get in?
So with TalkPod TV. I'm really loving the show aspect.
I'm looking forward to seeing it back.
Yeah, so I think it'll be really good. So those are the 2 main ways to find me at the moment.
Okay.
How about you, when people want to find you?
Well, yeah. One of the things is, I guess it's a little bit egotistical. I spent years, there's a very famous Ian Dickson. In fact, my middle name is Ross, and his name is Ian Ross Dickson.
No way.
So,
I did not know that about you.
Yeah, so what, my middle name?
Yeah, and that there was somebody else called
and he
Ian
is
Ross
mega
Dickson.
famous. This Ian Ross Dickson is mega famous. He's the equivalent to Simon Cowell in Australia. Is a big music mogul. And so he always owns the front page on Google if you put his name in, or my name in, not his name, my name in. But now, if you put my name into Google, I own the front page, which is just I always look skyward and think Mum would be really proud if she's googling me up there, she's going to find me. So so my work here is done. And bizarrely, I couldn't get iandickson.co.uk for years and years and years. And I was just randomly looking about 3 years ago, and it was just like there, £3.50. And I was just like, oh my God.
KarenMurray.com is £7,000. So it'll be a while before I can buy that one.
So iandickson.com is owned by a guy in Gloucester, and if he's watching this, you're a very greedy man. He wanted 15 grand for iandickson.com. I said,
but
no, you've got the wrong Ian Dickson.
It's not being used.
No, it's not. It's not even
mine
live.
Isn't either. It's a premium. It's one of these premium domains. They've stolen it. But I think it's interesting because, asking you that question about how to find you, one of the things I think we both have to operate with a very abundant mindset because we actually go to the same networking groups, we speak to the same people, but we both have a slightly different way of doing things. And I think we both, I've got a client of yours recommended somebody to me that I had coffee with just because she'd said, and I knew you'd be really pleased about that. Yeah. Yes, because, and I think we do operate with that abundant mindset, because one of the things that's heartbreaking is seeing how many businesses are struggling that could really do with help. So it's not that there's a lack of businesses out there, it's that there's a lack of really good business coaches sending out messages that connect with those people, that enable them to say, actually, I would quite like some help.
So, you sort of round me off just perfectly, because, closing message really for me, I'm going to talk to camera and then we'll say goodbye. But the reason why I've had coaches on today, really, as much as anything, they're easy people to talk to, but is that the industry really doesn't have a great name, and there are some really, really good coaches out there. People like Karen that are just amazing. So, and Paul. So.
Like you.
There's the fact that I'm 14 years in tells me I'm still getting away with it. So I'm still waiting to get tapped on the shoulder to say get back to work. So, but it just goes to show there are some really, really good coaches out there, and you might have to kiss a few frogs, but go seek these people out. They are seriously good at what they do, and the industry, it works. It absolutely works. I wouldn't be 14 years in if it didn't work. I promise you. So thank you for coming in. Thank you for sharing that close off too, because it was a perfect round off to what we've been talking about, I think. Right, so I'm going to come over.
No, I'm going to say next time we do this, I'm going to interview Ian.
Fabulous. There you go. How about that?
He's been really generous with us today and allowed us as coaches to showcase ourselves. Yeah. But this man, you need to hear some more from him. So I'm going to interview you next time.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't know that was coming. So we might need some more 50p's for the meter, Andy, to see if we can get another one going. So, right, if you've watched the show today and you've enjoyed it, please do share it. I meant to say all the way through, please keep hitting the share button. But of course, it's going to be posted up, and you can go back and watch it at any time. You might be watching this tomorrow. So, but please do, if you find anything of interest in here, just hit the share button. It's completely free to do. So. I want to thank Andy and Jim for essentially sponsoring what we've done today. It really was a pilot opportunity for us to test whether or not this is a thing. I think that Andy definitely has hit upon something that is a gap in the market. So we have the nowness and the immediacy of live Facebook Live. But we've also got the professionalism of a studio environment, be able to interchange with guests and just talk for well over an hour about things that I think hopefully you'll find interesting. It can be cut up, it can be reused. If you're thinking about coming in and using the TalkPod type environment, get in touch with this guy. Seriously, you come in, record, it's done, it's live, and then you can go away and cut it up, reuse it, repurpose it. And you haven't got to keep coming backwards and forwards. It's done in one go. And these guys really know what they're doing. So there was a little bit of nervousness this morning, but I think we settled down in the end and everything went to plan. So unless he's going to tell me he's had a blank screen for the last hour and 10 minutes and somebody's left a lens cap on.
Well, I was watching Janet and Paul.
All right,
and it
so it
came
has definitely
over
gone out.
brilliantly.
Brilliantly. Right, so we're going to wrap up there. We overrun by about 15, 20 minutes, but we didn't really want to set a time scale. I know that we've got somebody, we're doing something at 1 o'clock, I think, so we're going to go. Thank you again for coming in. Absolutely fabulous. I hope you've enjoyed it, and who knows, we might even do it again this year. So we'll see where we go. Thank you.